Hi everyone. Two challenging aspects to living in dementia units are firstly the noise and secondly having to abide with the routine. In terms of the noise, 30 residents, a loud TV, clattering kitchen, telephones, medication rounds, a medication rattly trolley. All this combination of noise can be very stressful. And the other demanding thing is the routine. If you're not an early riser, having to get up at 6 or 7 o'clock for a shower and then breakfast and then a long day ahead can be very stressful. So in terms of the noise with your parent, if you can encourage them, if they're getting distressed with this, encourage them to have time out in their room and relax there. And in terms of the routine, you can ask staff to shower your mother later and have breakfast later in the unit. Because, it's not that you can change things completely, but at least if you can sort of buffer the edge of it, it will help your parent be able to manage more effectively. So in terms of the routine in a bit more detail, there was one woman, a lovely lady, so she was actually elderly. She was about 88 and she always used to dress in pink and she had a very bright personality, but she did not like getting up early at all. Of course, there's lots of residents that don't like getting up early, but the thing is that staff have a lot to get through in a short space of time, when the morning staff come in before breakfast, they want to get, at least 2 showers done before breakfast, so that they can get on with the rest of their morning after breakfast. So some people have to get up early. It's a bit of a trick. The early morning risers, of course, won't mind being showered early, but by the time you get to 90, you're not really wanting to keep getting up early generally. So what you need to do is, if your mother's in this predicament, and especially if she's having to be pulled out of bed, in her opinion, at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, screaming and shouting and creating a fuss, chances are staff will try and put her later on in the showering regime. But also as a family member, if you know this is going on, or the staff have alerted you to this, just say to them, look, mum has never been an early riser. She's always liked to get up, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and she likes to go to bed later. So if at all possible, if her showers can be done, the end of the routine for the showering, and for breakfast, if she could have her breakfast in her room, that would be really appreciated. Now, it is important to request these things, especially, for example, for the likes of breakfast, because the easiest thing for the staff is to get everyone, rounded up into the lounge room for breakfast, and then they can just quickly go around and serve out the cornflakes and cups of tea and whatever. Whereas if they have to trundle up the corridor to deliver a separate breakfast, it's all extra time, effort and energy. So they won't want to do that unless it's actually requested. And if it is requested by the relative, then that will be put in the notes and staff will be informed at changeover shifts. So it is a good idea if your mother really can't manage it and you can see she's getting stressed or upset as a result, then request for her to stay in her room. And so probably at the unit that I was at, 2 or 3 residents had their breakfast in their room, either because their behaviour was so appalling. When they had to come to breakfast, it created stress city for everyone. And on the other occasion, with this other lady that dressed in pink, her grandson, who was power of attorney, he requested it. So there's always ways of getting around things in part, not always totally, but at least enough to try to aim for the person in the dementia facility to be able to manage their life. Okay, so in terms of noise, as I've mentioned, it can really be quite a racket in a dementia unit. It's just a whole lot of noise actually all day long, frankly. The only time you get a break in it, really, is maybe an hour between, or even half an hour between 3 o'clock and 3:30 when there's changeover from morning staff to afternoon staff, so that all the staff sometimes go back into the nursing station so that they can speak quietly actually amongst themselves for changeover. So that's a lot less noise, as you haven't got the nurses station, medication rounds, kitchen noise going on. But it's not much time, is it? Half an hour in a day to have quiet time. Oh, I don't know how these people manage it. So the way around it in part is if you come in and see your parent, say your mother, and you can see that she's just finding the din too much, just say, look, Mum, would you like to go to your bedroom? Oh, yes, dear, it's so noisy here. It will be quiet there. And just take her there. I mean, she might be a bit confused from the noise, but take her to her room. Do that. Always do a little bit of direction, orientation on the way. If she's, finding it that sometimes she gets to the room and sometimes she doesn't. It's always good to do a bit of practice. Now, come on, Mum, we're going to your room now. Can you recognise the way to go? And so which room is yours? Can you point it out? Can you read the numbers? You know that your room is room 148, third on the right. We've practiced that. Oh, yes, dear, yes, I'll try. So third on the right, so read the numbers. First door, second door, third door. What does that say? Room 148. Yes, so it's your room. Good, so you've got there. Now we can be quiet. Peace reigns. Now let's just sit down here and have a quiet time, because relatives can actually find it a bit of a din too. They're only there for half an hour and it can just become spin out material. Tinnitus causing this noise. So in your room, in your mother's room, you can just de-escalate from all the noise, calm, quiet environment. And just encourage your mother and say, look, Mum, when it gets really noisy, I know you've never liked a lot of noise. No, I haven't, dear. I didn't even like the records playing that your father used to play so loudly, all those Beatles songs he used to like. I know. So, okay, do you want me to say to the staff, that it would be good for you to have quiet time in the afternoon in your room for an hour or two? After toileting, they can leave you here for an hour or two to have some quiet time rather than being in the lounge all day. Oh, yes, that would be such a relief. I would like that very much if you can tell them, because I could forget. I'm likely to forget. Okay, so let's say, what about after lunch? So lunch finishes at 1 o'clock. Say if you can spend between, and then toilet, say 1 or 2 hours in your room after lunch. We can ask the staff to organise that. Oh, yes, dear, that would be great. Okay, so that's solved. Noise, well, it's not solved, but it's reduced. I mean, the whole thing is in a dementia unit. Many things you can't resolve, but at least you can reduce the impact. So with noise, quiet time in the room, with the routine, if the early rise and shine's too much, request the staff for showers later in the morning and for breakfast in the bedroom. There are some solutions there. I mean, it takes a bit of creativity, and it takes the big thing it takes is good relationships with the staff. That's what needs to happen. As I've outlined in both these books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise, both going into the unit and in the unit, you need to develop good relationships with staff. Firstly, you need to get to know the staff by name and role and responsibility. Get to know them, set up a relationship. Very important. Not so important when everything's just going smoothly, but when something isn't, like your mother becomes dehydrated, she's not eating, she has a stroke or whatever, can happen so quickly. You need to have that one person that you can go straight to ask the questions. How can I help? What's happening? Can we have a doctor's meeting? How's the medication? Ask the person, can we help with drinking? Can we help with eating? Will Mum need to go on soft foods? Ask these questions, because this is what will help, in the big picture for your mother. So thank you for your likes and your looks and your support. I really appreciate it. Please pass on the links.